Another exciting episode of Decoding Cybersecurity. I'm your host, 𝗪𝗿𝗵𝐺, and today we have a truly special guest with us, Dr. Jeff Krumm. Dr. Jeff is one of the most accomplished professionals in the field of cybersecurity. With a career spanning over 40 years, he holds a PhD in cybersecurity, is a CISSP certified expert, and serves as the CTO of IBM Security Technical Sales for the Americas. He is also an IBM Distinguished Engineer, an elite title recognizing his groundbreaking contributions to the industry. Beyond this, Dr. Jeff is an author of Inside Internet Security, What Hackers Don't Want You to Know, and also contributing author to the Information Security Management Handbook, 6th edition. A prolific speaker who has presented over 100 conferences and a YouTube educator with over 8 million views on his cybersecurity videos. Today, we'll dive deep into his extraordinary journey, his insights into the evolving field of cybersecurity, and his advice for aspiring professionals. So, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Jeff to the show. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my privilege. Thank you for inviting me.
Jeff, I have to say your video, the importance of recognizing a deepfake, really got me. At the beginning, I genuinely thought, wait, is that Jeff or what's happening here? It was such a clever way to introduce the concept of deepfakes. In the lighter vein, I have to ask, I hope I'm not talking to a deepfake version of you right now, but the real Jeff, a living, breathing human being, right?
Let's see. I'll go check in the mirror. I think it's really me, but you might actually do better with the deep fakes. You might get the discounted real version, but one day, sure, I can do 6 podcasts at once and they'll all be deep fakes.
That's a good one, Jeff. Thank you. So, Jeff, your career is truly inspiring. I'm sure many of our listeners are curious about how it all started. Could you share with us what inspired you to pursue a career in cybersecurity and how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a doctor. I thought that would be the coolest thing in the world. I always loved learning how things work, and knowing how things work, you also kind of have to figure out how they fail. And of course, that's what doctors do, is they're dealing with people that have bodies that are failing, and then they're trying to figure out how to fix them. So that was always my mindset. Then about midway through high school, I realized how long I'd have to be in school to be a medical doctor. And then at the same time, the math teacher brought in this programmable calculator that they called a computer. It really was a programmable calculator, and let us play on it. And as soon as I put my hands on that, I had a change of dreams. I'm like, okay, no, I'm not dealing with bodily fluids anymore. I want to go to this thing where I can type on a keyboard and it does magical stuff. And then I spent the better part of my senior year writing password stealing programs. Now, I had enough ethics where I did not use them to steal anyone's passwords. I just wanted to see, how could I do it? How could I make the system operate in a way that it wasn't intended to? And that's sort of a hacker's mindset. But the difference in an ethical hacker and an unethical hacker is an ethical hacker says, I want to know how I could break it, but that's so I could learn how I could fix it to prevent it from being involved in other things. So that's where I really got my start, was very early on. Then, fast forward, 10, 15 years, and the internet comes out. I know it's hard for many people to believe there was ever a time where we didn't have the internet, but we didn't. And there was a huge need for security. And I thought, well, this internet thing looks really cool. And I was always interested in hacking and defense and good guys and bad guys and the psychology behind it. So I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I moved into that space about 30 years ago and have been in it ever since. So to me, it was something that I feel very fortunate. It would have been a hobby for me were it not that I get paid for it. So getting paid to do your hobby is kind of a good deal.
I'm really fascinated by your journey to earning a PhD in cybersecurity. It must have been a unique and challenging experience. I would like to hear more about what were some of the biggest challenges and rewards of their journey.
Yeah, so that's also an interesting one. And my path is very different than what most people would do. People say, how long did it take you to do that? And My facetious answer is it took about 30 years because the PhD that I got was based on publication, so publishing research. And I published research, stuff that they would qualify as research, as a part of my day job, but just occasionally over the course of a few decades. And then eventually I got to a point where I think I've got enough stuff and enough recent stuff that I could put all of this together, build a thesis around it, and then do an oral defense and get a PhD from it. So then I just basically spent a year kind of heads down, focused to a great extent on writing that thesis and doing the oral defense and then doing the additional work after to make the corrections and so forth. And so in one sense, it took me a year. In another sense, it took me about 30 years. So it all depends on how you want to consider the clock to be. But it was something I did that was purely because I wanted to. I got my bachelor's of science in computer science in 1984. I got my PhD in 2019. So
Wow.
a big, long gap. And the reason I make that point is because some people think, well, my college days are long behind me. It's only over if you choose for it to be over. So I had a multi-decade gap between the bachelor's and the PhD. And I'm a lifelong learner. So, and I think you have to be if you're going to be in this field. You don't have to do a PhD, but that to me was just something I personally really wanted to accomplish. So that's what I pursued and got it, and was very fortunate that I had the support from my employer to help me do that.
Wow, such an inspiring story to read. So your books, Inside Internet Security and Information Security Management Handbook, are highly regarded resources. Could you share what motivated you to write them and the key takeaways for readers?
Yeah, sure. Again, also non-traditional paths on how all of these things occurred. So maybe the big lesson is be open to possibilities because the opportunities may come when you don't expect them. There was many years ago, more than 25 years ago, I guess now it's been, a colleague of mine put out an email within the company and said, anybody that's interested in writing a security book, I've got a publisher who would like for us to do something on internet security. Well, internet security is not a new topic now, but back then it was a pretty novel idea. So I got permission. He selected me to work on the team, and I started working on the project. And there were supposed to be 4 of us on the team. I never thought, I would have not had the audacity to think I could write a book. I hoped I could write enough of a book to deserve having my name on the cover. So that was my goal. And he had already written one, so I thought, okay, I'll ride on his coattails and learn from him. We started the project. A few months in, he left the company. A few months later, another person left the company, and then another one never joined the project. So before long, it was by process of elimination, I was the only one left. So I just said, okay, I'll just keep writing until I don't have anything else to say or until I get tired. And once I finally got tired of writing, I handed it over to the publisher, and you know the rest is history. So that was a case of just being at the right place at the right time. And it really stretched me, really caused me to learn a lot, because it's one thing to do a presentation in front of people. You need to know what you're talking about. If you want to write about it, you have to know it 10 times deeper. And that caused me to do more research into the topics and learn a lot more. So that was a great learning experience. On the second one, they asked me, I had done a presentation at a conference, and one of the representatives from a publisher was in attendance and said, we're doing another edition of this Information Security Management Handbook, and we would like you to write a chapter on identity and access management, which I had just done a presentation on. He said, turn that presentation into a chapter in the book, and we've got a deal. So that's how that one came about. So again, just putting yourself out there. You never know where opportunities will come.
I'm curious about the turning points in someone's career. So I'm sure that where I'm getting into, right? What were some of the key milestones that shaped your journey to become CTO of ID Security Technical Sales?
Yeah, boy, a lot of things. Writing that book was a big game changer for me. If you work with clients, which is what I do, then you need credibility. You need a reason for the client to want to hear what you have to say. So having that book published was a great opportunity. Then it got a lot of doors opened for me, both with clients where I'm trying to sell our security software, Also, open doors in academia, where the presumption is if you publish something, then you must know something. Well, that's not always true, but I was willing for them to go ahead and assume that about me. And it opened doors on both sides for me. Now, I'm not saying writing a book is the way to do that now. It was the way to do it back in the year 2000. But now there's different ways to reach people. And so when that came about, I used that. It wasn't just writing the book, because that would get me into meetings. Then you need to have something to say so that you can stay in the meeting. So I looked at the book as a way to open doors for me and give me opportunities, but then I have to deliver something once I get there. And as a result, I worked my way up through the IBM ranks to become an executive, technical executive, the DE position, distinguished engineer position. And I'm now an adjunct professor at North Carolina State University, which is my alma mater. So I got to achieve both of those dreams.
Fantastic. And your YouTube videos on cybersecurity have reached over 8 million views. It's amazing. I'm curious, what inspired you to create educational content? Like books, PhD? You're more inclined towards creating the educational content, right? So I'm just curious to know more about it.
I've always loved teachers and teaching and learning. And so I've always tried to make as much of my job, even though I'm in sales, make as much of my job as I can about teaching. I want to provide value. I don't want to just be providing a transaction. I want to become someone's trusted advisor, a consultative seller. So is what my day job has been about. And then the YouTube videos. So IBM had been running an IBM technology channel on YouTube for, 10 years or so. And we had been doing these things we call lightboard videos for about 6 years. And that's where the lightboard videos, it looks like the person is writing backwards in the air with a bright marker. And that's not what's happening. So if you want to know how they work, you can actually go through the playlist. I did a video on how we make the videos, because I cannot write backwards. I'll just say that. And
Do you write with your left hand, by the way?
I do not. No. So there's your clue if you want to start working on, okay, how does it look like he's writing backwards? Oh, how does it look like he's writing with his left hand when he's right-handed? Yes. There's your clue. But anyway, IBM had been doing these for a bunch of years, and I was not involved in it. And then a couple of years ago, we have a studio where we do these recordings out at our location at Research Triangle Park. I live in North Carolina in the U.S. And they just put out an email to people in the area and said, anybody that thinks you have an idea for a video, come pitch it to us. We'll see if we like the idea. So I thought, boy, that'd be really cool. I've seen those, and it's a nice visual effect. Maybe I could come up with one. Well, that was a couple of years and 100 videos ago. So I took to it. I really enjoyed it. I'll tell you, it's been very challenging. I'm used to getting up in front of people and having an hour to talk. But as they say, I would have made it shorter if I'd had more time. It actually takes more time to give a short presentation, because you have to be very cautious with every word and try to be very net with everything. If you have the luxury of time, you don't have to plan as much. So anyway, I enjoy these. It's a new format. It's a different format. It's a way of reaching people all around the world. And as a teacher, an adjunct professor, in my classroom, I can fit 30 students. On YouTube, I can fit millions. So to me, it's very gratifying to be able to do that. And that would be my bit of advice. Back when books were the main place where people learned, I wrote a book. When blogging came to be a thing, okay, then I wrote a blog and updated that for a number of years. Then now YouTube, people want to see visual content. That's where a lot of people are learning. It's where I'm learning. And so that's where I'm going to be. So my advice would be, don't necessarily follow my path, but look for what is the way that people are consuming and accessing information, and then go to that spot and try to be relevant in that space, wherever it happens to be. I don't know what it'll be next, but be there.
Your YouTube video on careers in cybersecurity really resonated with me and so many others. With the growing demand for cybersecurity professionals, what advice would you give to someone just starting out in this field?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things people can do on that. And I try to capture most of it in those. There's a couple of videos that I did on the topic. And one of the things that I would recommend is, if you're very new to the field, well, there are learning resources. The good news is there are a lot of things you can get even free materials online. Like I did a 10-part cybersecurity architecture series, which is based on the 400 level course I teach at the university. Now, that doesn't mean you need a 400 level understanding in order to take it. I tried to make it for someone who just understands IT, I think could go through that. There are also certificate programs. IBM has taken that course and then put it into a Coursera offering so that people can, for a reasonable amount of money, buy that and then go through and do some exercises, take a test, and then get a certificate. There are other things. I mean, you could go through the full bachelor's degree like I did back in the day. So there's different levels of education that you can do depending on where you want to land. And I think a big part of this is making sure you have a few mentors to help you, not just one, but a few, so that you get different varied perspectives, and do some internships. Get some experience, because all the jobs want you to have experience, but if you don't have experience, how do you get experience? Well, sometimes you got to start with internships and get a few of those. And by the way, before anyone contacts me, no, I cannot get you an internship, and no, I cannot get you a job. I get these requests every day. I'm not involved in hiring. So I would recommend you leverage your own network, and if you don't have one, start building one. Find the people that are working in your space that you can work with. It's hard to, like I can't be a reference for someone that I've never worked with. Sure. So
Yes.
Very important to find someone local that you can meet with and build that kind of rapport.
So for someone transitioning into cybersecurity mid-career, what steps would you recommend they take to make a successful shift? Or do you think it's the right move?
I think it definitely can be done. And I think a lot of people will find, here's one of the cool things about cybersecurity, is that as long as we have computers, we're going to need it. Now, that's not true of every discipline and every domain. There are certain technologies, we don't need a lot of people who are experts in key punch machines anymore. Okay, there was a time when that was important. It's not important now. Cybersecurity has always been important. If there's anything of value on a computer, a bad guy will try to take it. So that means we'll always need cybersecurity. And every new technology that comes out is another opportunity to figure out what can we do in cybersecurity. When mobile computing came out, okay, how do we secure mobile devices? Cloud, how do we secure the cloud? Now it's AI. How do we secure AI? So every single advancement that comes, part of my advice is make sure that you're aware of these new technological advancements and understand them. If I don't understand how AI works, I can't really do a good job of securing it. So I need to be involved in that. So if you come from an AI background, then you've already got some of the basis. Now you need to start developing what I refer to as the security mindset. And this is another course I teach at the university I call secure thinking. Think about not only how a system works, but how it will fail. And then once you consider all the failure cases, some of those will be human caused and intentional, and then you have to build in the controls to stop that. So that's where the education and learning what kinds of countermeasures you can put in place and mitigations and things like that. But I do see a lot of people moving into this. Some people do boot camps. I never did one, so I couldn't tell you whether it's good or not, but I know that a lot of people do them. So number of different entry points.
Right. So certifications like CISSP and CompTIA Security Plus are often talked about. How important are certifications in building a cybersecurity career, and which ones do you recommend for beginners?
I think they can be really important. The most valued, and by the way, if you want to see a nice resource on this, go to a website called cyberseek.org, cyberseek.org, cyberseek.org. And in there's a lot of different things they have. One of the things they have is a ranking of the certificates that are out there. One ranking is in terms of how many people have them, so how prevalent, how common are they? And the other ranking is how much in demand they are. And those two are not necessarily the same thing. Number one demand is for CISSP, the Certified Information Systems Security Professional. Yes. But not everyone's eligible for that. You have to have 5 years of experience before you can even get it. But the Security Plus from CompTIA is, I think, in my opinion, the next best thing from a just overall security standpoint. Now, if you know you want to be an auditor, or you know you want to be a security manager, or you want to be an ethical hacker, then there are specific certifications for those things. But if you're looking for overall broad cybersecurity, I think Security Plus is a good entry cert with the ultimate goal of getting CISSP if you can get there.
Very true. When I started my cybersecurity journey or a certification path, I started with Security Plus. Eventually, then I moved on to 𝗙𝗪𝗂𝗍 and then last
Yeah,
year CISSP. So I definitely
exactly.
agree with you on Security Plus. It's a good starting point. Now we also have something like certified in cybersecurity. People can give it a try. It is a free certification as well. It's an entry level certification. So
Sure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Like I
I
said,
remember you mentioned, yes, sorry,
it's
go ahead.
never been easier to learn about cybersecurity. There are
True.
more resources. And again, the IBM Technology Channel with my videos are just one source, but there are so many good sources out there that you can't complain that is not available.
I remember you mentioning the resource cyberseek.org. What an incredible tool. It's doing a
Yeah.
fantastic job of helping to close the cybersecurity skill gaps by providing the detailed and actionable data about supply and demand in the cybersecurity job market. Fantastic tool.
It really is. I have nothing to do with it, so I can endorse it just from a pure standpoint. I refer people
Yes.
to it all the time because they have
Yes.
nice career paths that you can see. If here's a beginning level position, here are the intermediate positions I could move to from there and what skills I would need, and here are the advanced positions. So I think it's a really good general roadmap.
Yes, after I heard that, from your video, I immediately checked into the website and found out, wow, what a fantastic site. I didn't
Hmm.
knew this about this site before, so thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that
Yeah.
information.
Absolutely.